back to another video in React Native. So in this video, we'll be implementing Google login with React Native using MongoDB as backend. So we'll also be trying to store the user, that is once they sign up with Google. So if you find this interesting, please do hit the like button and then let's get started with the video right away. So over here, already the coding part has been completed because we are also trying to initialize the backend, so the video would become kind of long. So that's the reason I've already completed the coding part. So I'll just be explaining each step, that is from the starting point to the end point. That is what needs to be done so that you can implement on your system as well. So let's get started. So over here, first of all, I've just created a basic React Native project with the project name that is Google Sign, as you can see over here. Okay, so after creating the project, I've opened the project inside of my VS Code, and then the next step I followed is I've initialized my React navigation. So make sure you head over to Chrome and then search for React navigation, and then over here I've installed the required dependencies to initialize React navigation into my system. So make sure you install this one, that is React navigation /native. I've installed this, and apart from that, the next step is we need to install React Native screens and then React Native safe area context. So this is to install into an Expo Manage project. So since we're using the bare React Native framework, we're going to make use of this one. So let's say yarn add React Native screens and then React Native safe area context. So after this, let's move on to hello React navigation, and over here we're going to initialize the native stack. So we're going to say yarn add React navigation /native stack. So after initializing all of the required dependencies for your React navigation, I've created a new folder, that is my navigation folder, and inside my navigation folder I've created my stacknavigator.js file. So here basically I've just created my stack, which is going to be equals to create native stack navigator. Make sure to import create native stack navigator from the required dependency, and I've created two stacks, that is my auth stack as well as my main stack. So inside of my auth stack, I'm returning a stack.navigator, which in turn contains a single screen, that is your login screen. This is your auth stack. And inside my main stack, I'm returning a basic stack navigator again, and I'm just going to initialize my another screen, that is your home screen. So this stack is going to be shown once when the user is logged out, and this stack is going to be shown, that is basically your home screen is going to be shown once when the user logs in with Google or signs up with Google. So in the return block, basically initialize your single navigation container, and based on whether or not if the token is set or if the token is valid or present, we're going to show the main stack, else we're going to show the auth stack. So now let's understand where exactly is this token coming from. So as you can see over here on line number 14, we're going to say const destructure the token value is going to be equals to use context, and then we're going to initialize the auth context. So over here I've created basically my auth context, that is by making use of your context API. So if I would just show up my file tree over here into my auth context.js. So here basically inside of my auth context file, I've imported a few things at the top of the file. So first of all, make sure you initialize and install React Native async storage /async storage, and make sure you install JWT decode into your main project. And here I've created my auth context with the help of the create context hook. Make sure to import that from React. And here instead of my auth provider taking in the children, I've just initialized two of my state values, that is your token, set token, user ID, set user ID. And this is just a use effect call, that is to get the user ID or to basically set your user ID. So here we're going to say const token equals to await async storage dot get item of your auth token. So this was the key that will be used to set, that is once while logging in, and this is the decoding part, that is to get your user ID. So that's the only step that's being done over here. So we're going to say const decoded token equals to apply JWT decode and then pass in the token that we got from async storage. And to get the decoded token, it's going to be const user ID equals to decoded token dot user ID. And here we're going to say set the user ID to be of the user ID. So over here we're going to return the auth context provider, passing in the value prop, and we're going to pass in all of the four values, that is token, set token, user ID, and then set user ID, such that we can use all of these four values in any point of our application. And this is of course going to take in the children over here, and make sure you export all of these two values, that is auth context as well as your auth provider. So over here now, to access these state values in any point of our application, we must include the auth provider into our main app.js. So as you saw in the initial part of the video, that is once we started off in the app.js, as you can see, I have wrapped my stack navigator within the auth provider, just like this. And also make sure you import the auth provider from the auth context.js file. Okay, that's it. So that is the basic code of your stack navigator. So based on whether or not the token is set or it's not set, we're going to show the stack over here. So currently in this case, the token is not set because the user is currently not logged in. So that reason you're able to see the auth stack. So auth stack is basically going to contain your login screen because that's the component which we have passed over here. So I'm going to go to the login screen.js. So we're going to make use of this dependency, that is React Native Google sign-in / Google sign-in. So I'll be sending the dependency name in the description, you can, so that you can add it into your project. So I'm just going to show my package.json, that is all of the dependencies that I have used. So the first three is for, these two are for your React navigation. This is for your async storage. This is for your Google sign-in. I'll be sending all of the dependencies list in the description as well. You can install that. So this is JWT decode, core.js, Axios. So React is by default there. React Native is also present by default. And these two also we installed while initializing the React navigation. So these are the required dependencies. So currently we are focused on this one, that is for initializing the Google sign-in part. So make sure you install this with the help of npm or yarn into your main project. So now let's go into the login screen. So in the return block, basically we're going to have an image. As you can see, the same thing is being displayed over here. And we're going to have a view with a pressable which says sign up with Google. And the styling part, we need not worry because I'll be sending the code. You can check it out. And we're going to have on press over here which says handle Google login. And we're going to have another pressable which says already have an account and then sign in. So we're going to only focus on this particular button which says sign up with Google. Okay, so let's press on this. This has on press function which says handle Google login. So over here, first of all, we're going to say set loading to be true. So you can actually, perform some UI or some loading state. That is once when you press on, or sign up with Google. So currently I've not done that part. So I've just set the loading to be true over here. And then initialize your try and then your catch block. So first of all, catch of error, we're going to say console.log, login error with that particular error message. And finally, once everything is executed, we're going to say set loading to be of false. So now let's look into the implementation of the try block. So first of all, we're going to say const response equals to await Google login. So we have another function that is Google login, as you can observe over here. So let's go to this function that is Google login. So first things first over here, initialize the async method over here, and we're going to say await Google sign in dot has play services. We're going to make use of this built-in function. So this Google sign in is going to come from this dependency that we just previously installed, right? So after that step, that is after applying the sign in method, we're going to say console.log the user info. If at all you want to see the user info, you can just console.log the user info over here, and we're just going to return the user info so that this information, that is this user info, is stored inside of this particular response because we are returning from the Google login function. Because here we have said that const response equals to await Google login, and this function is returning something that is your user info. So basically all of your user info would be stored inside of your constant variable that is response. So from the response, we just need one thing, that is your ID token. So we're going to say const ID token equals to response. So we're going to check if the ID token is directly available. So sometimes if it is not available, it would be available inside of your response.data.id token. So just in case that this function doesn't error out, if at all only this is initialized, we're going to say const extracted token equals to, it can be either the ID token or it can be the response.data.the token. If all you want to see the token over here, you can just console.log extracted ID token from data is going to be the extracted ID token. So now before going into the backend part, so this is basically a backend part. If at all you want to skip this, you can actually skip it and you can directly implement this part, that is set the token into the async storage, and you're going to set the token to be of the data.token. So this set token is basically coming from your auth context, as you can see over here. Okay, so once the token is set, automatically you would be navigated to the main stack because we have written the condition in such a way that if the token is present, navigate to the main stack, else show the auth stack. So this step, if at all you do not have the backend, you can actually skip it. You can directly say, basically this step, you can skip this call and you can just check the condition, that is if your extracted ID token is present, then get the data and then store it in async storage and then set the token, and pretty much that's it. Right, so if at all you want to implement the backend part as well, that is to store the user in the backend part, that is once they have logged in with Google or signed up with Google. So we need to create the backend for that. So I've basically followed pretty much the same steps that I followed in my previous projects. That is by creating the API folder. And after creating the API folder, so the way you're gonna do that is create the API folder at the root level, and you're gonna say cd API, and you're gonna write in npm init, and then pretty much hit enter. So this should create the package.json file for you, and just keep on hitting enter until you finish all of the questions, because this is going to ask you a bunch of questions. So after the package.json is initialized, just make sure you install all of these dependencies, that is body parser, cors, express, json web token, mongoose, and then nodemon. So make sure you install all of these dependencies into your API folder and not into your main project. Okay. So after installing all of the required dependencies, make sure you just initialize a basic model. So I'll be sending the code for the model as well. So this is your user model. It's going to contain a Google ID. It's going to contain a name. It's going to contain email, the photo, as well as the token as well. Okay. So make sure you initialize this, and then you're going to export it over here. So basically in the index.js file, you're going to basically import all of the required things that you have just initialized. So here you're going to create an instance of the app. You're going to say const app equals to express. Choose a specific port, initialize a cors as well, and pass in your initial middlewares and your JWT as well. And with the help of mongoose.connect method, pass in your connection URL, and then you're going to give a console message saying that this front-end application is connected to the backend part. And finally, with the help of the listen method, we're going to say app.listen of the specific port. We're going to say server running on that particular port. So in my case, it's actually 4000. So save the file. So all these implementations we've already done in the previous projects in the exact same way. You can refer to that as well. I'll also be sending the code for the entire Google sign-in project. You can look into that as well. So make sure you import your user model with the help of the require method. Initialize a JWT secret with the help of your crypto that is built in. So you can import crypto from crypto, and then you're going to say crypto.random bytes of 64.2 string of your hex. So this is basically going to give you a random string of a bunch of characters that is going to be a JWT secret. So this is your post method. It's going to be app.post. It's going to be / Google login. It's going to have the async method with your request and the response, and this in turn is going to take in your ID token that is going to be coming from the request.body. So the first things, we need to verify the ID token with the Google API. Okay, so this is your Google API that we're going to be using. Okay, this in turn is going to take in the ID token. This is going to come from the front end part. So for that, we're going to make use of axios.get method, and from the response.data, we're going to actually pass in all of these 5 or 6 values, that is sub, email, name, given name, family name, as well as the picture. So this is going to come basically from your Google API, that is this particular endpoint. So once we get all of the information, we're just gonna create the user. First of all, we're gonna check if all the user already exists. So to check that, we're gonna say await user.find one method. We're gonna check with the help of the Google ID, which is gonna be your sub value. If all the user is not present, then we're gonna say create user with all of these values. That is Google ID, email, name, family name, given name, as well as the photo. Once the user is created, just say await user.save. Okay. So we're going to say create JWT token for the authentication part. So here we're going to say const token equals to, we're going to make use of the sign method in JWT. We're going to say JWT.sign. This in turn is going to pass in or take in 2 values, that is your user ID and the email, and it's going to take in the secret as well, that is your JWT secret we have already created with the help of your crypto. That's going to get passed over here, and we're going to pass in this expires value that is actually not required. You can skip that part. And once it's created, we're going to send the token as well as the user to the front end part with the message saying Google login successful. So the second endpoint is pretty simple. This is to get the user information from the backend part. So we're going to make use of the find by ID method, pass in the user ID, and that would give us the user information. So that's it. So now let's come back to the login screen. I missed one more part, that is we need to also pass in these values, that is web client ID, iOS client ID, as well as your scopes. Okay, so this also is going to take in your Google sign-in. That's going to come from your dependency, and we need to first of all configure it. And for the configure method, we're going to pass in 2 things, web client ID as well as the iOS client ID. So let's see how exactly we're going to first of all get the iOS client ID as well as the web client ID. So for that, let's head over to our Google console. And here first of all, we're going to create a new project if at all we have not created one. So currently I've created my travel planner. That's the project that's currently selected. I'm going to press on new project over here. let's say Google sign up, something like this. And by default, my maps billing account is currently selected. I'm just gonna press on create over here. So as you can see, currently it's creating the Google sign up project, and we're gonna choose that project as the project over here. So as you can see, it's created. I'm just gonna say select project, so that is selected. So the next step is we're gonna focus on creating those two web client ID as well as the iOS client ID, because we need that in the configure method. So let's press on API and services, and also make sure to implement Google sign in. Of course, you need to have a OAuth consent screen. We need to create that as well. So first of all, let's create the consent screen. So press on the fourth option, that is OAuth consent screen. And yeah, so the user type is going to be external. Okay, so this is basically available to any test user with a Google account. So while implementing this, we're going to pass in a test account as well. So let's press on create. Make sure you press on here this thing. So this is basically going to ask your app name. So let's say you're going to pass in travel planner. Okay, and I'm going to pass in user support email, that is my own email. And apart from that, I'm going to leave everything as default. Over here also we need to pass in the developer contact information. I'm going to pass my own email. I'm going to say save and continue. Okay, so over here I'm pretty much not going to do anything. I'm just going to say save and continue. Yeah, so over here we need to add in your test user email so that the Google sign in works properly. So I'm going to say add user. So I'm going to add in my own email with which I'm going to log in. So I'm going to say my email over here, and I'm going to press on add. So as you can see, my email is being added, and this is your test email to test the application, that is while logging in with Google. So I'm going to say save and continue over here. So this is your summary, that is your user type external, app name, your support email, and all of the other details that we just gave in. Okay, and yeah, pretty much that's it. I'm just going to say back to dashboard. So as you can see, your Google OAuth consent screen has been set up and then created. Okay, so next step is we need to create your credentials. So move on to the credentials tab. So I'm going to say create credentials. We need to create a OAuth client ID. So I'm going to press on this. So next over here in the application type, first of all, we're going to do it for the web. So I'm going to choose your web application. So you can give any client name over here. I'm going to say web client itself, and I'm just gonna press on create. Okay, so as you can see, our client ID is being created. So make sure you copy down this one, client ID. So you're gonna paste in that copied value, that is your web client ID, in this particular place. Okay, I've pasted in mine over here. So that was it about your web client ID. I'm gonna press on OK. So now let's create the next one. So I'm going to press on create credentials. This time it's going to be for the iOS client ID. Let's press on OAuth client ID again. So this time application type is going to be iOS. So the name is going to be iOS client 1. We need to pass in the bundle ID. So here we need to pass in your bundle ID. So pretty much it's going to be equals to your com dot project name. Okay, so whatever project name you have given, just mention that over here, right? So after that, apart from that, I'm going to leave everything as default, and then I'm going to press on create. So as you can see, this is my client ID for the iOS part. So make sure you copy down this and then come down to the configure method, and wherever we have the iOS client ID, paste in your iOS client ID over here. Okay, so let's do that, and then let's save the file. So I'm gonna press on OK. Okay, so here in the Google console we have done 3 steps. First of all, create your OAuth consent screen, create 2 of your client IDs. One is for your web client ID, and the second one is for your iOS client ID. It's pretty simple to create. Okay, so let's come back over here, and we need to make one more change. That is, since you have installed all of your dependencies, that is into your package.json, into your main package.json, that is React Native async storage, Google sign-in, React navigation, all of these. So make sure you go into your iOS folder, and you need to do a pod install, otherwise it would not work. Okay, so once you install all the dependencies, make sure you do the pod install, and then again restart your application or rebuild your application. So one more last thing to implement is for the iOS part to work, we need to include some configuration code into your info.plist file. So let's do that. I've already added that. So make sure you go into your iOS folder, Google sign in project, info.plist. So I've just added in this piece of code that is from key till your string. Okay. So this basically contains a configuration for your iOS client ID as well as your web client ID. So since you're focused only on your iOS client ID, since this is for the iOS part, so just make sure you add in your uh, iOS client ID over here. So here you just need to add the string part and not the entire thing. This would already be set up for you. You just need to add this particular part that is from your iOS and from your web client ID. So if you just check out the login screen over here, you just need to add this part. Okay, just the string part, and this would already be set up in the info.plist. I'll be sending the code in the description, that is whatever needs to be added into your info.plist file. So once you've added this piece of configuration code, again you need to do a pod install into your iOS directory such that the Google login works perfectly fine for your iOS as well. Okay, so after doing that change, you can just try to run the application, that is try to log in with Google. So I'm gonna go back to my login screen. So pretty much that's the implementation of your Google login with React Native. So I'm just gonna press on sign up with Google over here. So as you can see, Google Sign wants to use google.com to sign in. So based on whatever project you have given, it's gonna show up over here. Okay, I'm gonna press on continue. Okay, so as you can see, it's asking choose an account to continue to travel planner because I've used my previous credentials. That is the app which I'm building currently, that is travel planner app. I've used those credentials over here. So that's the reason it's saying to continue to travel planner. So I'm going to just press on OK, and I'm going to say continue. So once the Google login finishes up, automatically I'm going to be navigated to my home screen. So as you can see, backend response is successful, which says Google login is successful. And if you check out the backend part, the user should be stored. And as you can see, all of this information is present. That is your email. This is my current email. This is my Google ID. This is my photo. That is my original photo. This is the updated at value. And pretty much we have the token as well. So this is your extracted token part. So we are getting everything and everything is working as expected. So as you can see, this is my email I've rendered. So in the home screen, I've just initialized my code, that is to first of all fetch the user ID, that is with the help of the JWT code, and this is to fetch the user data. That is, I've just made a call to my second endpoint that I've just explained a couple of minutes ago, that is user and then user ID, and with the help of the user email, I'm just gonna show it over here, that is user.user.email. And over here I've just initialized my logout, which has a on press function. So here we're going to say clear auth token. So in the clear auth token part, we're just going to say await async storage dot remove item of the auth token. After that, just set the token to be empty. So again, this set token is going to come from your auth context. That is this one. So once you set the auth token to be empty, automatically you'd be navigated to the login screen again. So yes, that's it. So this is how you implement the sign in with Google. So I'm just going to press on logout over here. So automatically the token is cleared and then we are coming back to the login screen. So if you found this video interesting, please do hit the like button and then let's see you in the next video, and then thank you for watching.